growth, as it does in organic life forms, comes from small beginnings and builds over time. Because there's two elements to any grappling sport. I'm always insistent upon the idea that jiu-jitsu is both an art and a science. Okay, it has scientific elements insofar as it works according to the laws of physics and lever and fulcrum, etc., etc. But it also has an aesthetic element insofar as you're making choices with technique. You're expressing who you are as a person. You have 10,000 different variations of moves you could use, but you're specifically choosing these. That's an element of choice and self-expression on your part. And insofar as that is true, combat sports are not just a science, but they're also an art. So most combat sports have this sense in which they have the features of both an art and a science. And it's not just about high percentage. But there is an undeniably aesthetic element to martial arts where you, as it were, express who you are as a person in terms of the techniques you're ultimately going to choose. When martial arts are done well, it's the most beautiful sport in the world. Okay, when it's done poorly, it's the ugliest. A beautifully applied submission hold, a perfect throw, a superbly set up takedown are among the most difficult techniques to execute in all of sports, and when they're done well, they're magic to observe. Jiu-Jitsu is an art and science which looks to use a combination of tactical and mechanical advantage to focus a very high percentage of my strength against a very low percentage of my opponent's strength at a critical point on their body, such that if I were to exert my strength upon that critical point, they could no longer continue to fight. Let's say we have two athletes, athlete A and athlete B. Athlete A has 100 units of strength, however we define that overall. Athlete B has 50. Okay, so ostensibly, athlete A is twice as strong as athlete B. But athlete B can maneuver his body into a set of positions focused around a critical point of his opponent's body, where he can apply 40 units of strength out of his total of 50. His opponent can only defend with 20 units of strength out of his total of 100. You have now completely reversed the strength discrepancy. Originally, athlete A was twice as strong as B. Now, on that one localized point, the knee, the elbow, the neck, B is now twice as strong as A. Under those circumstances, B should win. I don't have to fight your whole body. I just have to fight your left knee. If I can break your left knee, the rest of your body is irrelevant to me. You know, a huge part of jiu-jitsu is understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the human body. There's parts of the human body that are shockingly robust, and there are other parts that are shockingly vulnerable. The major joints, and of course the most vulnerable of all, the unprotected neck. Techniques are born the same way we're born, weak and in need of nutrition. And you start with minimal resistance and you make progress over time. When you first go to the gym, do you put 500 pounds on the bench press and try to bench press it? No, you'll be killed. You start off with the bar, you build over time, and then one day, 5 years from now, perhaps you really are lifting 500 pounds. But only a fool would attempt that on their first attempt.
Hello everyone, I just want to take a quick moment to thank the sponsor of my new video, xmartial.com. So please stay tuned to the end of the video to hear more.
It's like scientific development on a subject matter which is intrinsically simpler. Okay, there's a sense in which naive and overly simplistic assessments of scientific method may not work well at advanced levels of science, but they work damn well in the training room with jiu-jitsu, where the subject matter is inherently simpler than it is in research science. And as a result, there'll be a spark. You'll see something like, there's possibilities there. Okay, let's puzzle this out. Let's work with this. And you run into a lot of failures. You suddenly think, oh man, if I put my hip this way, this works really well. Then suddenly you try and spar and you get caught in a simple omoplata. And you're like, okay, that didn't work as well as I thought. And then you look to rectify things. If things go in promising research directions, you keep them. If not, you discard them. There has to be a sense in which you can't be too forgiving. You have to test hypotheses. But on the other hand, you can't be too ruthless either. You have to look for promise, and my advice is start slow. You work progressively over time. Now, you also have to have some common sense here. You can't be too forgiving to a technique if it's repeatedly failing, and good people have tried it, and multiple good people have tried it, and it's just not working out, then okay, it's time to dismiss it. But don't be too quick. Whenever you get similar skill levels, the chances of defeat get very, very high. Interestingly, if you're a white belt and you're going against a black belt, you'll take risks. Why? Because there's no shame in losing to a black belt when you're a white belt. So you'll play more lightheartedly, and you'll have a more fun role. But when you have very similar skill levels, you're going to come back to what? The techniques that are most likely to get you a win. That number of techniques is usually pretty small. And if you're always battling with the same tough opponents every day, where if you make even a single error, it will cost you that match in sparring, and you don't like losing, you're going to stay with a very small set of moves. You might get slightly better at their execution over time, but you as an individual will not grow. Growth, as it does in organic life forms, comes from small beginnings and builds over time. You can't take an untested, untried move and get it on a world champion black belt. It's going to get crushed. So it's not ready for that. It's like a lion cub being thrown out into the Serengeti plains. A lion cub is just too small and too ineffective. It's a lion, but it's a cub. And it's not until it grows into maturity that it can be a lion that can dominate the Serengeti plains. That's why I always encourage my students to play with a variety of belt types and spend the majority of their time with lesser belts for development purposes. When you're getting closer to a competition, you obviously want to change that. You want to be getting more a competitive sense of hard work, but you must learn to divide up your training cycles into non-competition cycles where you're presumably working with people who are slightly lower in level than yourself, and in some cases quite a bit lower than yourself, and then competition cycles where you're working with people much closer to your own skill level. You don't need to win every battle. You only need to win the battles that count. And the battles that count are in the World Championship finals, okay? That's the one that counts. Think about that win, okay? That's the one you're going to be remembered for. You're not going to be remembered for the battle you lost on Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m. in some nameless gym with some guy that no one cares about. No one's going to remember that. You're going to be remembered for your peak performances, not your everyday performances. Focus your everyday performances on skill development so that your peak performances you can focus on winning.
This video is brought to you by X Martial Gear. Please show your support by shopping with them online for all your jiu-jitsu needs and by clicking the link below in the YouTube description. They sell fun, top quality rash guards, shorts and other no-gi training gear for really good prices. So support this channel by visiting the link below or simply go to xmartial.com.